Hi guys, so today I'm going to speak to you about 21 passive income ideas for a freedom lifestyle. If you're interested in this idea of financial independence, for example, then passive income is something you should be massively into because it offers you an exciting opportunity outside of earned income. Earned income is a type of income that you generate by swapping your time for money, whereas passive income is income that you actually make, i.e. you put your time in up front and then you generate an income from that time you've put in over time, okay? The other really important thing to mention about passive income is that passive income isn't always 100% passive, okay? So you would put time in up front, but sometimes with certain assets you invest in, there's a need for you to put in time once in a while. So although it's passive in many cases, it's not always passive 100%. My name's Ken of the Humble Penny and Financial Joy Academy. What we do on this channel is to give you the insights, the hacks, and the practical tips for you to work towards a dream life of financial independence and money joy. This topic I really enjoy talking about because it's quite hopeful and it just offers you a universe of ideas that you can then look at and pick maybe say 2 or 3 ideas that you can then begin to explore for your own passive income needs, okay? I'm also going to do something really interesting with this video, so make sure you stick all the way to the end. What I'm going to do is, with each idea, I'm going to basically rank them by various areas. I'm going to cover things such as the risk required to start a passive income idea, the level of returns you can expect to generate from your passive income idea, the amount of effort required for you to put into this passive income idea, how much money you need to put in to start this passive income asset and start to generate an income, and how much liquidity, i.e. how easily can you access that passive income that you are generating, okay? So because we've got these 5 different areas, it means that the 21 ideas I'm going to mention to you are completely unequal, okay? So that means that the type of idea you decide to explore does matter because some of them will be a lot more favorable to you than something else. So for example, you might be somebody who might prefer property investing to say investing via the stock market, or you might be the person who actually thinks, I can't be bothered with the hassle of property investing, I'm going to just invest through the stock market, for example. So we're going to cover 21 ideas, but the good news is I'm going to summarize all of that at the end of this video. So make sure you watch till the end and give you a very neat table of all 21 ideas, ranking by each of those 5 areas. Then I'm going to sum them all at the end and give you total so you can see which one has the highest total, which means it's possibly the best, in fact it is the best idea to pursue, and then all the way to the one that has the lowest total, which means it's one of the hardest passive income areas to focus on. And from that 21, that list of 21, you can then choose which ones will be best suitable for you, okay? I'll also indicate on that list which ones we are doing in our own personal lives, okay? There are 14 of them on that list that we have various interests in. So with this scoring I'm going to apply to each one of these passive income ideas, let me explain what the methodology is, okay? So for risk, I'm going to score it between 0 and 10. A score of 0 means high risk. So if an asset is a high risk for passive income, I'd say it's a 0 score. If it's really low risk, I'd say it's a 10, okay? For returns, if an asset gives you low returns, I scored it as a 0. If it gives you high returns, I score it as a 10. For effort, if it requires lots of effort, I score it as a 0. And if it requires very little effort, I score as a 10. So there'll be scores in between 0 and 10, obviously, okay? For money required, if it requires lots of capital up front, I score it as a 0. And if it requires little to no capital, I score it as a 10. Again, you can score in between those numbers. And for liquidity, which means access to your money, how easily you can access your money, I score it as a 0 if it's low liquidity, which means that it's quite difficult to get hold of your money, and a 10 if it's high liquidity, if it's super easy to get hold of your income and capital, I score it as a 10. And then again, you can score any number between 0 and 10. So there you have it. That's the structure for scoring. And as I mentioned before, I'll put a link later on in this video to a blog post I've written with a lot of detail on everything we're going to cover on this video about these 21 passive income ideas. So make sure you watch out for that, because that gives you a very neat picture of everything we're going to talk about. Let's dive straight in and start to explore them right now. The first idea is property investing. Now, I love property investing. In fact, I've got a bit of a love-hate relationship with property investing, keeping it absolutely real with you, because property is made to come across as an easy asset class to explore and invest through. But the truth is, property requires a great deal of capital up front and a great deal of work to maintain it over time, okay? So that means that, although you're putting work and capital up front, now and again, if you're managing your property yourself, you will have your tenants over time contacting you to say, replace this or replace that item or come and service this item. And that involves work, okay? So the alternative to actually doing this yourself is to get yourself a management company. That takes a lot of that work away from you. So because of that, I've ranked property investing this way. For risk, I've given it 6 out of 10, which means it is fairly risky to go into property investing. So in my rankings, 0 means really high risk and 10 means really low risk, okay? For returns, I've given it 7 out of 10 because you do generate a decent return from property investing, provided you've done a real business case for investing in property, okay? And you've invested in the right location, okay? So that's really important. For effort, I've given it 5 out of 10 because it does involve a great deal of effort. For money, I've given it 4 out of 10 because it involves quite a lot of capital to get started, okay? For liquidity, I've given it 4 out of 10 because although you can access rental income on an ongoing basis, your money is actually tied up in a property, which is quite an illiquid asset class, and usually can be quite difficult in some cases to sell a property and actually get your money out of there. So for property investing as a passive income source, I've rated it 26 out of 50 so that you can start to then compare that score to the many other assets we're going to go through for you to generate passive income. The second passive income idea is to start a blog. Now, I know a lot about blogging because I've been blogging at thehumblepenny.com. The misconception with blogging is that blogging requires little amount of work. Yes, it does in some ways, but it actually, over time, builds up depending on the type of blog you are trying to create. So if you're creating a blog to make money, it usually requires a bit more work than a blog you might be creating just for a bit of fun, okay? Because you need to market your blogs, you need to collaborate with various people, you possibly need to create various products to generate different forms of income for your blog, okay? Now, I'm going to put a link below to a tutorial that I've created on how to start a blog. It's a really detailed tutorial that you can check out if blogging is something you're interested in. It's something that certainly completely transformed our lives and in fact helped us create this YouTube channel to further expand and put our message out there to the world, okay? From a risk perspective, I ranked blogging as 9 out of 10 because it's actually not risky at all. It's a very low barrier to entry and you can do well by blogging, okay? From a returns perspective, I've ranked it 9 out of 10 because the returns are really high if you put in the work. From an effort perspective, I've ranked it 7 out of 10 because there's nowhere near as much effort as other asset classes we're going to talk about, okay? From a money perspective, I've ranked it 9 out of 10 because it requires very little amount of money to get started. And from a liquidity perspective, I've ranked it 8 out of 10 because you can access your money immediately because it's an online business. And as soon as you make your money comes into your bank account or into your PayPal account or wherever you choose, and you can access that money as soon as possible. So a total of 42 out of 50 for blogging. The next idea is to rent out a spare room. This is one of the most easily overlooked sources of passive income because it's pretty much the low-hanging fruit. If you have spare room in your home at the moment, you should be exploring a way to rent that out for a bit of income, especially as you get a tax-free amount of about £7,500 per annum for renting out a spare room. Let me paint you a different picture of how the returns can compare to a totally different asset class. So say, for example, imagine you rented a room that generated for you, let's say £700 per month, okay, which is about £8,400 in a year. This is equivalent to having £210,000 invested through the stock market and generating a return of 4%. Just try and weigh those up. Generating £700 a month from your spare room is equivalent to 4% return on a massive pot of £210,000 per annum. So my rankings are risk 7 out of 10, returns 9 out of 10, effort 8 out of 10, money required 9 out of 10 because you require little to no money to rent out a room, liquidity 8 out of 10 because you can easily access that money as it comes into your life. Total of 41 out of 50 for renting out a spare room. The next idea is to invest in index funds and ETFs, which I just love because anyone can get involved with investing today. I've created a video called How to Invest Through the Stock Market for Beginners, which I'm going to put a link to below and above for you to check out. I've also done a comparison of index funds versus ETFs for you to kind of understand the pros and cons of investing into one of these different trackers and understand how to actually get involved in investing in them and what the risks are and things like that. I'll put a link to it below and above for you to also check out. Now, index funds and ETFs are amazing vehicles for helping you work towards financial independence, for example. So here are my ratings for this as a passive income source because you can generate dividends from them on an ongoing basis. Okay, so here we go. Risk 8 out of 10, returns 8 out of 10, money required 5 out of 10 because you do require quite a bit of money over time for the dividends from investing to start to become meaningful. Okay, liquidity 9 out of 10 because you can easily access your money on an ongoing basis because this asset class is one that you put money in and you can easily sell and get your money back out. Okay, so a total of 38 out of 50 for investing in index funds and ETFs through the stock market. Next is that you can create courses to generate passive income. Now, we create courses as part of our online school at Financial Joy Academy. You can check it out for yourself. I'll put a link below and above if you want to. We create various courses around investing, around financial independence. Now, we create these because these are digital assets you create once and you just leave them out there and they just generate income. I mean, every other day I get a notification, say from PayPal, that somebody has purchased a course, which is one of the best feelings because you wake up in the morning, look at your phone and go, someone you generated, say, £197, which is quite nice and quite a nice feeling, but a ton of work went in initially into creating that asset. And then with us having an exposure to the internet via our blog and via, say, YouTube, for example, and other channels, those courses are then able to be accessible to many people and for them to purchase them, say, on our blog or on the academy, as I mentioned earlier. So this is something you should definitely check out. We use a platform called Thinkific, which I'll put a link to below and above for you to check out. Thinkific is a course creation platform, a really simplified one for anyone who doesn't have tech skills. I rated this a total of 33 out of 50, which is risk is 6, so not high risk. Returns is 7, really high returns. Effort is 5. You do require a ton of effort to actually create a course, although it really depends on how big or small the course you're creating is. Okay, money required, I rated this 7 out of 10 because very little amount of money is required to actually create your course. And from a liquidity perspective, it's highly liquid. You generate your income from selling your courses, and that's it pretty much. Next is high interest deposits. This is essentially where you put money into a bank account, usually for a fixed term with a bank, and the bank therefore pays you interest income for investing your money in that account. Okay, this is kind of the very basic way we've typically so-called invested our money for a return. Okay, now I rated this a total of 35 out of 50. I'm going to put all the rankings to the side so you can see why. The notable one to point out is that you require a fair bit of money to start to see a meaningful amount of interest income, passive income from high interest deposits. Next is peer-to-peer lending. So this is where you essentially are lending money. So rather than say investing your money through the stock market, you are lending money to a company, which then lends that money onwards to investors in, say, property or in say, business, for example. And you do it for a fixed period of time, and you generate a return by way of interest income over time, okay? Now, this asset class kind of rests between cash, in terms of risk, between cash and investing in individual assets through the stock market. So it does carry its own level of risk as well. So this is really worth bearing in mind, okay? I'm going to put a link below to various companies that we've used ourselves for peer-to-peer lending. One of them is called RateSetter, which I'll put a link to below and above for you to check out. But do your own research, make sure you read as much as you can about this asset class of peer-to-peer lending, and also consider within the current economic climate whether this is an asset class that you'd like to expose your money to, okay? So from a passive income perspective, I've rated this a total of 32 out of 50. I've rated this 6 out of 10 for risk specifically, and the other notable one is the money required, which is that you require a fair bit of money to start to see, a significant amount of passive income generated from this. Next is dividend income investing. So here you're investing in companies that pay dividends, okay? Not all companies pay dividends, so you have to specifically find companies who have it within their policy and their approach to pay investors dividends on a continual basis over time, okay? Now, the real power in receiving dividend income is that you can reinvest those dividends and have them compound and grow over time, okay? So that's one thing to note. Now, I've rated this a total of 30 out of 50, mainly because, number one, investing carries a lot of risk because you're putting your eggs in one basket, and that company could fail and you could lose your money, okay? Although if you invested in really large blue chip companies that have existed for a really long time and have a huge kind of capital base, then it is likely that you are in somewhat safe hands, okay? But it's worth mentioning that it still carries a great deal of risk, okay? The other notable point is that you require quite a fair bit of money required to invest in these assets, and there's a fair bit of time required to research this particular passive income source, okay? A total of 30 out of 50 for this passive income idea. Next is venture capital investments, okay? So in particular, I'm referring to venture capital trusts. So this is an alternative asset class where investments are made into unquoted companies in the UK. Okay, this particular asset class gives you a 30% tax rebate for putting your money into unquoted companies and leaving it in there for about 5 years, okay? So you get tax rebates up front, which makes it really attractive as an asset class to investing. I've rated this a total of 24 out of 50, mainly because from a risk perspective, VCTs or venture capital trusts are for quite savvy investors, so not just the kind of everyday person on the street would invest in this particular asset class, but people who actually understand what they're investing in and are happy with the level of risk involved in investing in an unquoted company. So I've given it a 3 out of 10 for risk because it's quite a risky asset class. I've also given it a 4 out of 10 for liquidity because your money is locked away for 5 years. And in other areas, as you see, I've rated them, say, 7 for return, for example, because you tend to get quite a decent return because a lot of these companies, these venture capital trusts, pay you an ongoing dividend over time. Next is bond investing, which is one of the most low risk type of investments you could ever make, okay? Which means that being low risk, you'd expect to generate quite low returns, although there'd be a lot more guaranteed, okay? I've rated this a total of 34 out of 50, and the most notable aspect of that is that, again, I mentioned very low risk, decent returns, so 6 out of 10 on returns. Effort required is very little, so 7 out of 10 on that. Money required, though, 5 out of 10, because you need a fair bit of money to get this done. And liquidity required, 7 out of 10, because it's somewhat liquid, although, in some cases you can't really get your money back until after quite a fair bit of time. Next is to start a membership site, and I love membership sites, and in fact we have a plan in the works for creating one that we will be announcing sometime in the very near future. Now, I love these because they really offer an amazing way for you to create an intimate community that you serve directly. You offer them a particular service that goes beyond just providing information for them to do it themselves. You're actually in the driving seat with them and helping them achieve a particular outcome. Membership sites are ones that you can create using various platforms. I mentioned Thinkific earlier, which again, I'll put in a link below for you to check out. Thinkific, again, is a course creation platform that we use, and one that you could also use to create membership site if it's something you're interested in. What's interesting about membership sites from an income perspective is that you generate an ongoing income monthly, because people tend to pay on a monthly basis for the amazing value that they are getting out of a membership offering. Okay, now we've rated this a total of 30 out of 50 because, number one, it carries a decent amount of risk, because again, if you don't, say for example, if you don't have an audience and you want to start a membership site, it'd be quite difficult for that membership site to become a success. Whereas compared to, say, somebody who already runs a blog or a YouTube channel, it'll become a lot easier for them to create a membership site, which is one of the reasons why I really advocate for everybody to either start, say, a blog or a YouTube channel, something that means that they have some exposure to an audience in one way or another. Okay. Now, effort required, I've rated 4 out of 10 because this does require a fair bit of effort from actually to get it going. From a liquidity perspective, 8 out of 10 because this is a really amazing way for you to generate sticky, recurring passive income, because the income comes in on a monthly basis from your members within your membership site. So total score of 30 out of 50 for membership sites. Next is to start a YouTube channel. I've absolutely enjoyed creating this YouTube channel, but I've got to tell you, it's a fair bit of work. I will not kid you at all. And that's possibly because we create 2 pieces of content a week. I'll put a link below to a video we made only last week on how we became monetized in 3 months of creating this YouTube channel. I'll also make sure I put it above for you to check out. Make sure you watch that video because we share everything we've learned so far on how to create and generate income, which comes mainly from advertising from a YouTube channel. There are also other income streams you can generate through a YouTube channel. So for example, we've sold courses on our YouTube channel as another example. So the examples really are more than I can kind of cover on this video, but definitely make sure you check out that video as one to watch. Okay, now I've rated starting a YouTube channel a total of 36 out of 50, mainly because it's low risk to start a YouTube channel. Okay, it also requires very little money, so I've rated that 8 out of 10 on risk, 8 out of 10 on the money required, 6 out of 10 on effort because it's a fair bit of effort required, and 6 out of 10 on returns. And on liquidity, 8 out of 10 because you know the money comes in through PayPal or in through your bank account, and that's it pretty much. That's your passive income right there in your own hands. Number 13 is to create an app. Now, you and I know what apps are, and apps have become quite an interesting way for a lot of people to generate income over time, particularly apps such as gaming apps or kind of productivity apps and things like that. Okay, I've rated this one 29 out of 50, and the notable scores are around risk. Although it's easy for a lot of people to create apps, not all apps are successful, and the big successes we know about are the ones that have just blown up and everybody knows about them. Okay, the returns are decent if you make it from creating an app, and the money required can be considerable. So I've rated that 6 out of 10 because you've got to put the money up front to actually create your app with no hope that that app might actually become a success. Okay, it's a total of 29 out of 50 for starting an app. Next is affiliate marketing. This is where you are essentially a middleman and marketing the products of somebody else. So somebody has created a product and you market it to generate a return. So I'll give you a very transparent example. I mentioned earlier a company called Thinkific that we use for our course creation. We are actually affiliates for Thinkific, which means that if you say clicked on the link I gave you earlier and then started using Thinkific or paid for it, Thinkific would pay us a one-off commission. Okay, that's a good example of what affiliate marketing is about. And I really love that because it means that you can generate an income over time without having to be the person who's actually created the product itself or the service itself. Okay, I rated this one 37 out of 50, mainly because, as you can see, it's very low risk. So 8 out of 10 on risk, 8 out of 10 on money required, very little to no money required, and 8 out of 10 on liquidity, for example, because the money is right there for you to access as passive income. Next is to make and sell videos. Okay, there are now various platforms that you can make and sell your videos, and one of them is Newsflare, for example, which you can Google, but there are many others that you can check out online. You can use platforms as well, such as YouTube, for example, that I mentioned earlier. But making and selling videos, or what's now referred to as user-generated content, is big business. It's something you should definitely check out as a way for you to generate some passive income on the side, because essentially what happens is that you share in the revenues that your videos generate with the publisher that you choose to publish your videos with. Okay, now I've rated this 35 out of 50 as a passive income source. It's low risk, it's decent returns, it requires a fair bit of effort. You've got to make the videos, and it requires little to no money and high liquidity. Next is to rent out your driveway. In the same way you rent out a room within your home, renting out a driveway, particularly if you live in a decent location like near a train station, for example, is a really decent way to generate some passive income. Okay, I'm going to put a link below to a company I found called Just Park that you can register with as a way to find out, just put in your postcode to find out, what sort of rate you can generate for renting out your driveway. Okay, so you can generate anything from between £5 and £10 per day for renting out your driveway via this platform. Okay, I rated this as a total of 39 out of 50 because it's very low risk to do this. The returns are fairly decent. Very little to no effort to do this because you're just renting out a driveway. The money is decent because the money required is next to none, and you've got fairly high liquidity. Next is real estate investment trust, which is a way in which you can invest in the property asset class without actually owning the property units themselves. So you're essentially investing through the stock market, okay? And it's a fairly liquid way of investing your money, a bit like investing in index funds and ETFs that I mentioned earlier, but this time focused on the property asset class. Now with this, I've rated 29 out of 50, mainly because it carries some risk attached. So I've rated that 4 out of 10. The returns are decent. I've rated 6 out of 10, but most importantly, it requires little to no effort, so 7 out of 10, and liquidity is pretty high, 7 out of 10. But to again see a decent amount of income from investing in REITs or real estate investment trusts, you do need a fair bit of money. So I've downgraded that and rated that 5 out of 10 to give a total of 29 out of 50. Next, you can create yourself an ebook. This is one of the easiest ways of generating passive income over time. Now, I've got to admit that it does help that you have a bit of an audience for this to become a really potentially lucrative way to generate some passive income over time, because it's a digital asset, a bit like creating an online course. Once you've created it, it just lives and generates income. A really good example is also creating a spreadsheet that people can buy for various reasons. A really good example of that is our budget for life, which I'll put a link to below and above for you to check out and kind of see what I'm referring to here. Because once you've created that product, that initial effort goes in, and over time, it just generates an income for you time and time again, okay? Now, because this is such a decent idea, I've rated this 38 out of 50, mainly because 8 out of 10 on risk, this is very low risk. 8 out of 10 on returns, because it's quite high returns. 6 out of 10 on effort, because you do need to put some time in to actually create your ebook or spreadsheet or whatever. 8 out of 10 on money required, because it requires very little bits of money. Just your time is mainly the main thing. And 8 out of 10 on liquidity, because again, you have access to that money paid into your bank account or via companies such as Stripe or PayPal, for example. The next one is to start an e-commerce store. So this is where you actually own your own piece of the internet, but it's actually a store where you are selling various products that you might love to sell, for example. We recommend a company called Shopify, which I'll put a link to below and above, which has been created as a way for you to almost create your online shop almost effortlessly. So feel free to check them out as a way to create your own online store to sell things and generate passive income over time. Okay. Now, because this is a kind of done for you service, you do need to put the time up front and the money up front, obviously, to then to sell your products. So we've rated this 30 out of 50 because, number one, from a risk perspective, it's not riskless. There is risk involved in doing this activity. The returns are decent. It requires effort. It requires money up front. And from a liquidity perspective, fairly decent. So I've given those 6s across all categories, giving us a total of 30 out of 50. Next is to run a podcast. And very similar to running a blog or a YouTube channel, you can generate income from podcasts across various areas such as affiliate marketing, creating courses, starting perhaps a membership, the various things you can generate an income from, generating ads even, or sponsorship income. You can generate these various bits of income from starting your own podcast in the same way as I mentioned with starting a blog. Okay, a really good platform to explore is one called Anchor.fm. I'll put a link to it below for you to check out. It's a platform you can use on your mobile phone to start a podcast from absolutely anywhere. Okay, so make sure you check that out. Now, we've rated podcasting 37 out of 50. It's a really powerful medium to explore from a creativity perspective, but from a kind of passive income perspective, I've given it 8 out of 10 for risk, really low risk, 8 out of 10 for returns, quite high returns, 5 out of 10 for effort. You do need to put a ton of work into podcasting. 8 out of 10 for money, because little money required to start a podcast. 8 out of 10 for liquidity, because you can access your passive income whenever, provided you've started to monetize your podcast over time. The final one to generate passive income through advertising. But to do this, you need a platform on which your ads can be served. So platforms such as starting a blog, for example. We do one on WordPress. I mentioned earlier a link to how to start a blog. I'll put it again below. Check that out for yourself if you do want to explore starting a blog. Or you might need, say, a platform such as a YouTube channel or a podcasting platform, okay? Now, on our blog, we generate an income from a company called Mediavine, where we do a revenue share for allowing them to deliver ads to our audience on the blog. On YouTube, we generate ads through the YouTube partnership program, as I mentioned earlier. The passive income from the blog and the YouTube channel is generated from the number of views you have on these various platforms. And you have what's known as a CPM rate, which is cost per milli, which is the amount of money the advertisers are willing to pay to be able to put their products and services in front of your audience, okay? Now, for this particular one, we've rated this 40 out of 50 because ad revenue is something that is almost a no-brainer provided you've got a platform on which ads can be generated. Okay, so risk perspective, 8 out of 10, really low risk. Returns, 8 out of 10. Effort required, 6 out of 10 because you need to do a ton of work to create some content. 9 out of 10 on money because next to no money is required. And liquidity, 9 out of 10 because that money just flows in on an ongoing basis, on a monthly basis as well, provided your platform is one that people find a ton of value in. So a total of 40 out of 50 for generating passive income from advertising. Wow, I feel like that's been a marathon of passive income ideas. Now, here is a table, as I promised earlier, for you to check out with the various passive income ideas and their various scores and the various rankings. I've also indicated on this table the ones that we are actually exploring ourselves, okay? So feel free to check them out as you can see on the screen, what the various passive income ideas summarized for you to explore and start generating passive income today. Guys, I really hope you've enjoyed this video today on 21 passive income ideas for a freedom lifestyle. I'd love to hear from you in the comments which passive income ideas you're currently exploring yourself, or which passive income ideas are your favorite on that list as ones that you'd love to explore yourself? If you're somebody who has struggled to explore passive income ideas in the past, I'd love to hear from you in the comments also what your struggles are, why have you struggled, what do you find difficult about passive income, what questions do you have. Please feel free to let me know in the comments and I'd be more than happy to respond to you. Please also check out in the link below and above a video we created called How to Generate Your First Passive Income. So I've created this video to help someone like you if this is your first time generating passive income. I'm so glad we finally made this video about passive income. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button if you really enjoyed this video. Make sure you hit that notifications button also, because we now publish content twice a week on a Tuesday and Thursday. Thank you so much for watching and I look forward to seeing you on our next video. Take care and bye for now.